Well, I mean, no, this is fine. I'm just saying. I have to go through. I will take it today. There's still, well, I mean, you're not supposed to use the hashtag. I gotta figure out, but there is another.
I knew about the challenge.
So there's another one today, and today is.
It was awful.
So today, I was good. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, it was super easy. Okay. Yes, Thursday. Nope. So we had.
We're going to do our work session this evening. All right. All right, this evening we are having our work session on our APR scores. Very exciting. Dr. Hogan, are you in charge of this one?
I am,
Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
and I'm excited. I feel like we've been talking about this coming for months now, so we're finally here and finally get to actually talk about it. Given the time, I'm going to try to go efficiently so we can get through this and have time to wrap up in time for the open meeting. If the clicker will work with me. It's on. Oh, did you do that? Okay, we'll work with this. So this is just a quick summary. When we talk about how academic progress is measured, there are two different things that we work with. One is the state measurement, which is our annual performance report, which is what we're here to mainly talk about. You can see the standards that are included there: academic achievement, subgroup academic achievement, college and career readiness, attendance, and graduation. Within our buildings, we also work on the school improvement plans, which address many of the same things: achievement, behavior, attendance, and climate. So there are some additional things that we monitor as buildings, but all of the APR standards would be included in the building school improvement plans as well. Next thing, to talk about background with MSIP 5, annually this is the report that we get, and this is going to be based on status is one thing. If you've achieved at a certain level, you receive status points. If not, you can get progress points, you can get growth points. So those are measurements of you're not quite at status, but you're moving towards it in a positive way, so you can get credit for that as well. And so you can see the different terms. You might have target, reaching the target. You might have on track, which is you're not quite there, but you're making the right gains, approaching, and floor. So these are the different measurements that show how close you are to achieving status. So for the annual performance report, as you've heard previously, we did receive 100% this year, which is a fantastic outcome for us. The last 2 years, we missed it by a single point, so we're at 99.3%. One thing to point out on this slide, you can see the total points in previous years was 120. This year was in previous years 140, this year 120. So there were no science scores to report this year as part of this. So there's less total points awarded, but we did achieve 100% of those points this year, so that was a fantastic celebration. Looking at achievement, this slide is very exciting. If you look at, of course, if you got 100%, if you got 100% total, you're going to see that each slide shows 100% in every category. But if you look at this slide, under the method column, it's important to point out there that in all three of these areas, with science not being awarded any points, in all three areas, we achieved it based on status. So we didn't have to require progress or growth points in order to reach our full points in these areas. So that just speaks to the strong pedagogy of our teachers and their instructional strategies. So next up, subgroup achievement. You can see here again, 100% of the points. In two areas, we did have to rely on some progress points to help us get to the target. Our status was not low, it was on track, it wasn't approaching our floor. But with the addition of those progress points, we did meet 100% in our subgroup achievement. You can see within social studies, we did meet the status even within our subgroup achievement. Percent of students scoring proficient or advanced. This is a way to show you the progress over the years. So you can see back to 2014, the patterns of achievement based on number of students in those top two levels, proficient and advanced. One thing that was expected this year, we talked about this quite a bit in the fall, you can see a dip in both our ELA and math scores from last year. That was based on the new cutoff scores that were set for these new tests. So that is not an indication that all of a sudden our students have had a multiple percentage dip in achievement. That was based on the new cutoffs. And you can see the explanation down below. In ELA, we went down 9.8%, but the state of Missouri went down more than that, 12.2. So we actually increased our gap above the state of Missouri in our scoring. And in math, we went down 3.5, the state was 5.1. So again, we did not experience as big of a drop as the state, therefore increasing our gap above the state. And social studies was not part of that situation. So you can see our achievement there was flat from last year in a very strong way. Next, this is just a visual, and we're going to go through a number of different comparisons and visuals that show you how we stack up against our benchmark districts. So the yellow boxes with an X, that's a good thing. These are all targets that were met based on status. So if you can look across the board, remember there were no science scores. ELA and math, as you remember, within the subgroup, we needed both our achievement plus the progress in order to reach our full points. But you can see all of the rest were met by status, all of the other achievement plus our college and career readiness, attendance and graduation rate. So among our benchmark districts, we were the district that achieved the most of our points based on status. So that's a measurement of not having to rely on growth. We're achieving at a very high level across the board, and this is a good visual of that. When you look at a single MPI, so this is a measurement that a lot of districts use to combine all of our points into one score. So to take all of our students who took tests and turn it into a single index score. So rather than saying, here's your math, here's your ELA, this was all combined, all grade levels, all students into one score. And looking at our benchmark districts, you can see we came out on top, not just in our county, but including Rockwood, Parkway, and Pattonville, we still were the top single MPI. By this measurement, we were number 22 in the state, which puts us in as a district, which puts us in the top 4%, and number 5 in the greater St. Louis area. To look at individual subjects, ELA. So this is the same benchmark districts. You can see by our overall ELA MPI, we were a close second to Rockwood, and in the super subgroup, we were the highest among our benchmark districts. Within math, you can see in both areas, we were a significant chunk ahead of all of our benchmark districts, the highest score, again, not just in our county, but among all of our benchmark districts. Social studies, which is just based on government, but social studies, we were the highest in our overall MPI in our benchmark districts, and second place within our super subgroup. And if you just look at the county, as we've mentioned, within our county, in all areas, we were the highest MPI in English, math, and social studies in all areas. When we get into these charts, there's a lot more to look at as we go through these. But basically the color coding here, what this is intended to show, even if we were first or second, maybe 2 schools can show blue because 2 scored in the high level. But this is a little more because it shows all of our different grades. So this is not just an overall ELA score. You can see there 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and so on. And the color coding there is just a quick visual to show you we were in the higher range for all of our scores, and really the highest in almost all of them, but even where we weren't the highest, we still were very high scores across the board. Looking at the same comparison in math, again, a lot of blue is a good thing to have on this chart. So you can see that in all of the grade levels, all tests within math, relative to our county, we scored in a very high way. Social studies, again, it's a little bit easier chart to read because it's just government, so we don't have all the different grade levels. But there you see, we were the highest in the county, just barely above Zumwalt in this, but all in high range, so that's a good place to be. So that was achievement. Moving into college and career readiness. Again, the important thing to look at here, we already know that we achieved 100% in all of these different areas, but looking at that far right-hand column, we were able to meet all of these with status. We didn't need any growth or progress in order to achieve all of our points. Moving into other measures, graduate ACT composite scores. So you can see the trend there. Orange would be us, blue is Missouri, and gray is the nation. So we do achieve ahead of Missouri and the nation. A slight dip from the last couple of years. You know, in recent years it moved to all kids taking ACT as opposed to just those choosing to do it. So there was a predicted dip a few years back. At this point, it's relatively flat, a little bit down, so that is something we're keeping an eye on and talking about what steps we may need to take to fix that pattern. Comparing ourselves to other districts, and you'll notice if you looked at our number on the last page and this one, they are slightly different. A couple of different measurements out there. One uses the student's most recent ACT. DESE records their highest, and so you see a little bit different. We were 21.9 on the other slide, 22 on here. Comparing to our benchmark districts, again, the highest in the county. We are trailing Rockwood and Parkway by that measurement, but still scoring very well, certainly relative to our county. Next up, moving to advanced placement courses. So tracking the percentage of our students who take at least one AP course in their time in high school. You can see this number has been just about 50% over the years, and we have seen a slight increase, so we like to see that trend going up, and we do have strategies to continue to try to make, to rise that number even higher. I recognize the importance of getting students into AP classes to prepare them for college. This slide's pretty exciting too, because if you look, not only were we getting the percentage of kids up, but just the sheer number of students and exams. So not just students taking the classes, but those who are following through and taking the exam at the end of the course as well. All of these numbers are trending in the right direction, so we see great growth there that we're excited about. This one is an interesting stat to look at, because as you push more and more kids into AP classes, you would predict that you would see a struggle to continue to score at the high levels that you've scored at. So as you can see overall, the blue is a percentage of our exams that were a 3+. And so you can see we have a tiny increase and in a good place on our percentage of exams. So even as we have more kids taking these classes, more kids taking these exams, we're not seeing that overall score hurt. We did see a little bit of a dip in the individual student passing rate. Again, there's some, you expect that some, but that's not a stat we're going to say, well, that's just okay. We'll continue to work on strategies on how to support students. As we encourage students to challenge themselves and reach into AP classes, we want to make sure we are supporting them to be successful when they get there. Post-secondary placement, the first two columns, 4-year college and 2-year college, and then you see the highlighted row shows a generally flat number of our kids are enrolling in 2- and 4-year colleges. This is data that we keep an eye on every year and look for trends that we might need to address. But in general, over the 5 years, we've been in about a 3-year percentage up and down on our number of kids attending 2- and 4-year colleges. A lot of our strategic plan work now is focusing on those other 20% of students. If you're not going to college, do we have all of the right things in place to prepare our students who are going straight to careers or into other areas? So we don't want to assume that all kids are planning to go to college and therefore not prepare our other students for their next steps as well. So a lot of strategic plan work is focusing on that. Attendance, you can see on the bottom there a slight dip. The trend over the last 3 years is a slight decrease. However, if you look at the top, again, looking at the far right column, the method, we met this again by target. We didn't need growth or progress to meet this. We actually had a meeting today, met with someone to talk about strategies we can get some outside thoughts on how to continue to impact our attendance. While our attendance is still strong, anytime you see a downward trend, it's something that we want to make sure we're on top of and looking at how can we reverse that trend before it gets to a place that is not meeting our targets. Graduation, as we've been saying on most of these slides, the fantastic thing here is at the top, not only to get all our points, but we got it by target. We didn't, again, need growth or progress to achieve that. So very strong graduation rates. So to sum all of this up, our strengths and celebrations to pull from this information, top 4% of the districts in the state by that single MPI score. top, and really among our benchmark districts, to say that we're tops among our benchmark districts. MAP scores, ELA, math, science, social studies, EOC scores, all of those are very strong, very happy with our final results on those. Celebrating our advanced placement, the number of kids we're getting into classes, the number of students taking exams, and the number of students passing them are all trending in the right direction, so that's great news. And our graduation rate, it has been strong, it continues to be strong, very proud of that. Opportunities for growth, you're gonna see advanced placement listed on both. We celebrate the progress we've made, but we still see it as an opportunity for growth. We intend to continue to push to improve all of those numbers and continue to grow those experiences for our students. ACT, talked about that when we were on that slide as well. A small dip, maybe on the one hand, you can say it's not a big dip, but we don't want those things to get out of hand before we take some steps to try to address that. And strategic plan work is going to address some of that as well. Reading, we've seen, that wasn't on these slides, but we've seen a trend in our reading scores. It's also a slight downward trend. Again, they're still in an okay place. We're not panicking that our scores are terrible, but it is something we're keeping an eye on and working right now on strategies to start to reverse that. Behavior and attendance, those are things that are always going to be focus of ours. Behavior, reducing our number of in-school and out-of-school suspensions, reducing our office referrals and problem behaviors, especially those that cause students to miss class time. Those are always major parts of building school improvement plans, and we look very closely at those. And attendance, again, we have a slight decreasing pattern right now, so we're certainly focusing on attendance and how can we stop that trend. And right now, the good news is our year-to-date data shows that our attendance is up in a pretty solid way from last year. So it's showing that our strategies are working. We'll continue to monitor it for the rest of the year as well. Strategies, and again, I just touched on some of these. Building school improvement plans are what a lot of our strategies are based on. Not every building has the same challenges as other buildings, so we individualize those plans and review them. Look very closely at all the data that needs to be considered. AP, ACT, those are things that we've got some strong things in place, trying to encourage more students to take advantage of those opportunities, and how can we support them as they challenge themselves. Literacy interventions, that's getting back to our reading data, and how can we take some steps to improve those, which we are working on. Reader-writer workshops, same thing. Social emotional support, and there's a lot of work coming through our strategic plan on that. There's a lot of things, whether it's behavior, attendance, grades, where social emotional support will help a lot of our different data points. Restorative practices, that speaks to our attendance and social emotional health as well. So a lot of work, a lot of our buildings getting training on restorative practices. And the last is, when you get to attendance concerns, we've really reached a point that just overall strategies that you address for all kids maybe don't make the impact we need, so really individualizing. If we contacted any of our buildings right now and said, can you name the students who you have concern about their attendance, I say, absolutely, here's our list of students, and we even know why each one of them has had concerns. So really working one-on-one, whether it's home visits, individual conferences, to really impact attendance. So, that is a very quick run-through of our APR workshop. I do have two extra slides I want to speak to tonight, so that if you hear about this going forward, you have some background on it, and we will circle back on this later when we do have more information. We received notice from DESE that we have 3 buildings that were identified as targeted buildings under the Every Student Succeeds Act. When we initially received this, it didn't come with a lot of information, so we've been researching and identifying what that all means. So we've got just a little bit of information here. DESE, in order to comply with the federal ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, created a formula that's based on attendance, test scores, and graduation rate. And every building in the state was run through this formula to see where their scores, and it spit out a final score. And the bottom 5% of schools in the state of school buildings were identified as in need of comprehensive improvement. Good news is that's not us. Comprehensive comes with lots of supports and some requirements. We're not there. But what happened next is, if your buildings didn't meet comprehensive, they actually ran all of our individual subgroups through the exact same formula. And so they're going to run just our IEP students through that formula, just our free and reduced lunch, and just our subgroup, ethnic subgroups through that as well. And so they used that calculation then to identify schools that needed targeted improvement. So we're not saying you're comprehensive, but based on one of your subgroups, we're saying you need targeted improvement. And we've had 3 buildings, Bryan Middle, Francis Howell Central, and Francis Howell North, were all considered targeted improvement. And what you see up here, along with 335 other schools around the state, including every district in our county has at least one building. Most of them have multiple buildings that were identified as targeted buildings as well. Next slide is, what does this mean for us? Currently, what targeted status requires is these buildings to work with us, with central office, on a plan for improvement. Good news is we already do this through our school improvement plan process. It's not going to be an earth-shattering change for what we are going to do. What it will do is once we are able to identify more details, like for example, it doesn't mean that our achievement was necessarily a problem, but maybe it was graduation rate. But right now, we don't have that information. We've just been told we're targeted. We have to work on figuring out with DESE, how do we identify which area might be our area for growth based on how they ran their formula. So still working on that, but we will then add that focus to these building school improvement plans to make sure we're addressing this targeted status. This is a 3-year process, so there's nothing imminent that we're worried about happening. And as I just said, many details are still unclear. We're still in communication with DESE. So we will be happy to circle back when we have a more complete picture of what all of this means, but we didn't want you to hear some of this without having at least some baseline information. So it's not a huge concern for us at this point, but certainly anytime we're told that there's an area that DESE says we need to improve, we're certainly going to be looking closely at what we can do to impact that. So, 6:57, I ran through an awful lot for you there. What kind of...
Do you need a drink of water? That's my first question.
And before I stop too, I just want to really honor the work of David Brothers and Zach Brady, who spent a lot of time compiling all of this information, analyzing all the different ways we can look this, including this last 2 slides. They're doing a lot of work on trying to identify what that means for us. So they do a lot of great work on this. I don't want to sit up here and talk and act like they weren't a huge part of where we are with this tonight. So, any questions I can speak to?
Dr. Urban, I have one just to help me make sure I understood what you told us. So correct me if I'm wrong in my statement. So I think I understand that DESE ran the same calculation for our subgroups.
Mhm.
But at this time, although we know the schools that were targeted as an issue, we don't know which subgroup within that?
We do know it's IEP. That was in the slide, I think I failed to mention that. So
Okay.
it is our IEP subgroup, but we can't necessarily say whether it was our achievement, our attendance, or our graduation rate that caused that calculation to hit the threshold that they identified as.
And it's IEP for all 3 of the schools?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Lane?
DESE is going to be flexible on targeted schools, since it is almost March 1st.
And so it is a 3-year process as well, but
So
yes.
it's a 3-year process,
Mhm.
but expectations for our teachers and administrators to make changes in 2.5 months.
Well, and the changes don't go to them. These are only within districts. So comprehensive, they would be involved with schools. Targeted, they expect us to address it within our district. So there's nothing that we owe them within the next 2.5 months. But yes, for next year, looking at how we can work with this. We've already, as a county, there was an email sent to DESE just outlining some of our concerns with how they're looking at it. And while it may not change anything, the response was actually very encouraging that they understand there's still a lot of questions here, and they're willing to engage in those conversations going forward.
Board, any other questions? Well, thank you to you and your team for all the information. I think we don't have a lot of questions because you covered great information.
And so quickly that you, yes.
No, great presentation. Thank you so much. So with that, board will take about 5 minutes and then we'll kick off our standard meeting. Okay, thank you.
We don't like you anyway. Yeah, I wasn't invited to be part of this presentation, so. Get ready to send you a text. So we'll take a picture.
We're going to start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have the Board of Education lead that tonight in recognition of Board of Education Week.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Board. All right, it is with a sad heart that tonight we are going to have another moment of silence. We have recently lost Teresa Bowles, early childhood Hackman preschool teacher, Ashanti Dalton, Francis Howell North student, and Joanna Berry, early childhood Central student. So please join me in a moment of silence as we recognize that loss. Thank you. I'd like to hope that we don't have one of those again for a while. They've been too frequent this year. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted. Motion made by Mr. Lang, seconded by Mrs. Walker. By roll call? Ms. Walker? Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next on our agenda is recognitions. Mr. Franklin.
Thank you, Mrs. Coe. The Francis Howell School District has a long tradition of improving student learning using professional learning communities. So much so that the DESE Office of Quality Schools has recognized Francis Howell High School and Henderson Elementary as 2018 Missouri Model Professional Learning Community Schools. Here with us tonight are Dr. Wedlock and some of his staff from Howell High, and Dr. Barker with a few representatives from Henderson. Principals, will you please come up and introduce your representatives?
I'm Dave Wedlock, Principal of Francis Howell High School. Just want to introduce Dr. Angie Kozlowski, who is our Associate Principal and oversees our PLC process, long-term district employee, and Mrs. Sarah Orline, who is both an AP teacher and an instrumental PLC leader in our Algebra 2 group.
Good evening, Board of Education. We are happy to have with us tonight Dr. Amy Howe, who is a Spectre teacher and has done lots of creative work with having singletons. There's only one Spectre teacher usually in each building. Continuing the PLC process, whether it's Google Hangouts or some other creative processes. Dr. Amy Howe is with us tonight. Julie Sebring was one of the original grant writers when we went through the PLC process some 16 or so years ago, so that we could have some shared leadership with PLCs, and she's a 4th grade teacher and has continued to lead her PLC. Also, Margaret Carter was one of the original teachers who joined in the district when the district started the initiative and traveled up to Adelaide Stevenson High School to see PLCs in action. And Margaret is a 3rd grade teacher and also a PLC leader in the building.
Yep, I can talk while you guys wander over to the front of the dais. The state PLC school improvement model focuses on increasing student achievement by building the capacity of school personnel to create and sustain the conditions that promote high levels of student and adult learning. Congratulations to Howell High and Henderson Elementary. The Francis Howell School District has been honored by the College Board with placement on the 9th annual AP District Honor Roll. Francis Howell is one of only 5 school districts in Missouri and one of only 363 in North America to achieve this rare distinction. The 2017-18 school year, 266 Francis Howell students were named AP Scholars, the most in district history. This important work happens in our high schools, so we have our principals here tonight with representatives from their buildings. Gentlemen, please come on up and introduce your building reps.
Thanks for giving us a moment to kind of celebrate some incredible teachers. I have 3 AP teachers with me here tonight. Stacy Denigman teaches AP Psychology. Dr. Miller teaches Spanish and really has kind of developed that program from the bottom up. Just done a great job the last several years. And then Ryan McCoy covers physics.
Hello, I'm Nathan Hossetter. I'm here representing North, of course, and I have with us Ms. Shelley Parks. Not only is she the Missouri State Teacher of the Year, she is also the teacher of our Foundations class, and that is the feeder class for almost all AP courses, and we bring a lot of kids in through that. She's been absolutely instrumental in helping to build this program.
Okay, I'm still Dave, and I'm still the principal of Friends High School. I want to again recognize Dr. Kozlowski and Mrs. Orline do instrumental jobs as adults in the building, leading kids, setting goals, and really making the action happen. But I didn't feel right coming tonight without some of our students. We have Esteban Hutchison, who's here with us. He is a DECA State qualifier. He's a leader in dignity in the building, and he also scored well on the AP test. And then, of course, we have Jamal Magumbo, who is our junior class president, member of our band, and also a high scorer on the AP exam. So these students represent what this award really means, and so I'm happy to have them here with us here tonight.
To be included on the 9th annual honor roll, the district had to increase the number of students participating in AP while also maintaining or increasing the percentage of students earning scores of 3 or higher on the AP exam. And as you heard earlier, that's exactly what we've been doing. This is the 5th time that Francis Howell has been named to the prestigious list. Congratulations to all of our high school AP folks who made it happen.
Thank you.
And now, here to introduce our student board representative is her principal, Dr. Suzanne Lee from Bryan Middle School.
Good evening, Board of Education. I'm excited to be here tonight to introduce one of our outstanding 6th grade students from Bryan Middle. This is Ava Malika. She is here tonight with her mom, Nikki. And Ava presents herself as a motivated learner. You will see tonight that she brings energy to a room. She is willing to contribute to and lead discussions, so she'll help you out up here if you need that. She's friendly, mature, and full of spunk. She balances a very demanding competitive cheer schedule, and she loves to golf, so she's ready for this winter season to pass as much as many of us are in the room. When I asked Ava's teachers to share with me a little bit about what she contributes in the classroom, they were eager to share that she's such a positive role model for other students. They said that she makes them laugh, she brightens their day, and she lights up the classroom. They shared that she gives nothing short of her best every single day. Her math teacher shared a story with me about a time when the teacher was just having a difficult day. Didn't say anything to the class. Ava sensed that, and at the end of class, Ava just went up to her, gave her a hug, and said, "Hope your day gets better." So she's just a caring, charismatic young lady, and I'm proud to have her as part of the board tonight.
We probably should have done this part before we introduced Ava. The last recognition, board recognition tonight is actually of the board. So last week, we celebrated the Board of Education Appreciation Week. On behalf of our students, I want to thank you for your important contributions to our district. You each bring your unique set of strengths to the board team, and our district is better because of each of you. You give of yourselves and spend time, countless hours of unpaid time at meetings, retreats, recognitions, schools and sporting events, training, reviewing documents, and making important and often difficult decisions. It's a difficult, often thankless volunteer job. Francis Hall Board is active, well-trained, and highly effective. Your commitment to public education affects the present and future of our children and our community. MSBA has provided us certificates of recognition, so when I call your name, Laura will give those to you. So we're gonna do it in order here. So Michelle Walker, come on down and get a certificate. Mary Lane. Treasurer Patrick Lane. President Renee Trope. Vice President Chad Lane. Janice Stiglitz. And Mike Dean.
And Ava, we need one without you.
She made a great photo bomber. She did. Thank you.
All right, Ava, we are very excited to have you with us for this evening. You can participate in any of the conversations that we have tonight. You get to have all of the permissions and activities of the school board, except for voting. All right, so thanks for joining us and feel free to join in the conversation. All right. Okay, next on our agenda is patron comments. During patron comments, patrons are invited to address the Board of Education. Please come to the podium so everyone can hear. Please adhere to the 3-minute time limit. The board is interested in hearing the public's concerns and opinions, but we do not answer patrons' questions during our meeting. Questions and concerns will be addressed by Dr. Mary Hendricks Harris and appropriate staff members. Please remember that comments about individual students and staff are not allowed due to confidentiality. These concerns need to be brought to the administration's attention and may be brought to the board in a closed session. So with that, we do have one patron comment this evening, Chris Brooks. Thanks, Chris.
Get my timer there too. All right, good evening, board. I wish to speak tonight on the later in the agenda, the strategic planning committee update that will be coming at the end of the meeting today, specifically on the KPIs that have been designed for the Goal 2 strategy plan. For those unfamiliar with this goal, the district updated their strategic plan to provide an engaging learning environment And this plan has two strategies. First, to provide a system of support, including interventions and enrichments to meet the social, emotional, and physical needs of all students. And second, to increase the accessibility to and effective use of technology to enhance the learning experience. Last year when these goals were announced, I was a little skeptical, but I wanted to see what would happen. With the report that was published this evening with the draft KPIs from the committee, my skepticism has now changed to opposition. I wish to speak in opposition to the KPIs as follows, not to denigrate or diminish the hard work that has been done by the members of the committee. I don't doubt their commitment to the district, to the students, but I think it would be a mistake to continue with the draft KPIs as written. I only have really time to talk about 3 of them, so I'm going to focus on those. I'll send a follow-up email to let the board know the rest of my thoughts on with some annotations and references. First, under the first strategy, the first KPI, or the second and third KPIs, that is, deal with the social emotional learning, or SEL, curriculum and assessments. SEL is a current educational fad, which has no generally agreed upon standards and puts teachers in the place of being amateur psychologists and data collectors for third-party corporations. There are no long-term studies showing the benefits of focusing on SEL in schools. It has serious privacy concerns, as well as problematic legal implications involved in collecting psychological data from students. You're asking the teachers to perform psychological studies on unsuspecting children, often without the consent or knowledge of their parents. Not to mention teachers already struggling with all the other requirements they have to teach in the classroom. This is going to exacerbate that. For some children who have certain challenges, targeted SEL efforts are probably useful. Those should always be done in coordination with parents and never generally applied to the district as a whole. I strongly oppose the third KPI putting into place SEL assessments for all children, and I will refuse to allow my children to participate in those. The fourth KPI in the first strategy has the teachers implementing community building circles in their classrooms. This is part of what is termed restorative justice practices. The district has apparently invited David Newsom from Oakland, California to present on this on the 25th. I hope people will attend this and publicize for public comments as well. His school district published a report that reads like a sales pitch. It's full of emotional quotes and numbers that aren't really all that relevant to the question of what happens to the problematic students that are going to jail. In January of this year, just a few weeks ago, RAND published the first randomized controlled trial of the use of restorative justice practices in the Pittsburgh public school system. During the time of the study, suspensions went down. This will happen when you refuse to suspend students. Unfortunately, math achievement also went down for middle school students, for black students, and for the rest of the urban schools. Students tended to think that teachers' classroom management techniques deteriorated, and in the end, the program had no impact on actual arrests. I hope that sometimes the idea is that we say no, and I will be happy to provide further comments to the board in the future time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, continue with comments. FHEA? FISTA?
Dear Board of Education, Dr. Mary Hendricks Harris, Cabinet, and Community. Tonight you have been presented with transportation staffing for your approval. We agree that bringing bus service in-house is a good idea. It should be a cost savings. What is concerning to us is the fact that transportation employees will be offered benefits when working at least 25 hours a week. Teachers receive benefits at 20 hours. Your support staff must work 30 hours a week to receive these benefits. We would like to understand why these employees are valued more than your support staff, or are there plans to change it for support staff as well? Your support staff are generally the lowest paid employees in the district who could use these benefits more than anyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Walker, seconded by Mr. Lane. By roll call.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next on our agenda is the MSBA February board report. I apologize. So next on our agenda is our best practice, which is Real Will Wednesday. Oh, can we pause the video?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to board report for the month of February.
Pause due to technical difficulties.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Board.
So while they're queuing that up, we'll ask Dr. Lamers to come up and begin a real quick Wednesday's presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce two of my former colleagues from Francis Howell Central High School, Ms. Andrea Head and Tanisha Martina. They are library media specialists at Francis Howell Central High School who have developed a pretty unique program in the area that helps to teach our students some real-world skills, and they do it on Wednesdays during lunch.
Hi, so I'm Andrea, this is Tanisha. In November of 2011, our library advisory group began writing a 5-year plan, as many of you know, that changed our libraries into learning commons. But that was the difference was not just a name change. The vision behind that transformation was to provide a flexible, future-ready space that would enrich our students' lives. At Francis Howell Central, we're always looking for ways to enrich our students' lives and to make it a flexible space that students could come in and enrich the curriculum around us. So after seeing a similar idea on Future Ready Librarian blog, I thought, this is something we need to do. So Real World Wednesday kicked off in September of 2017. And we have a little video, thanks to Danica. Real World Wednesday is really a designated time once a month that students have a chance to learn about a skill that isn't connected to a class that they take. It's really a real world skill that something like changing a tire or learning some first aid skills, something that isn't connected to curriculum somehow.
They're real life stuff, as the title says. There's a lot of details that go into them that you may not know outside school. Or, if your family or parents don't talk about it with you, you may never know these things until the time actually comes. So figuring out these things when you're younger, or, needing to do these type of things, knowing those details is very important.
I think because at the high school level, they're preparing for college and for careers and for life after high school, and they're no longer going to be, maybe living under their parents' roof. They're going to be adults and they're going to be venturing out on their own. And so we're trying to think of what can help them so that when they are out there, they're not like, I don't know.
I think it's important because it kind of helps you get ready for the actual adult world and actually knowing how to do some of that stuff that they don't actually teach in classes. That is actually going to be useful in life.
A lot of students will ask, when's the next one, or what's the topic? And it's neat to hear students say, oh yeah, I actually do need to know about that, and then they sign up. So I feel like it's really positive because it's not something they have to go to. It is optional, and I've had students be like, dang it, I missed the one about the car. Are you gonna do that one again? There's not a class for just things that, we should know, but nobody's there to teach it. Our parents normally don't tell us unless we ask or something, or sometimes they don't even know. And it's not as easy as just a Google search. I know that individuals more my age definitely remember when it was home ec classes and you had automotive classes, and those things have gone to the wayside in many areas, and you don't have those things, but they're still desperately, desperately needed. Not everyone goes to college. And we need some real world skills to prepare students for these things in different ways of life and for things outside the classroom and for different opportunities.
that students had access to through this program. Okay, so preparing for a job interview. So we had several stations that focused on various topics such as appropriate dress attire, mock interviews, basic interview tips. Okay, so this was wrapping through the holidays, and it was do-it-yourself gifts like coasters, and then students practiced wrapping those gifts. Believe it or not all high school students know how to gift wrap, but we found out they don't. And then after that, it was writing the thank you notes. So being polite is a skill that they definitely need. Safety first is our motto. So with the first aid, we had certified nurses that instructed this one, and they taught how to treat various wounds. Next with the car insurance, we teamed with Allstate, and they went through different insurance policies, taught the students how to navigate that. All right, so I'm sure we could all use some tips for daily stressors in our life. So stress for less, we had yoga, meditation, stress relief apps, and stress-free imagery. Then buying a car, we collaborated with Frank Walsh at Papa's Toyota, and he showed students the process of buying a car. So through this program, we're able to cultivate educational partnerships, and that benefits our students because they get the knowledge and expertise from our community. This one is one of our favorites. This is presented by Greg Mertz from Lens Auto. And it was only our second Real World Wednesday event when it was featured on KMOV, which we will watch now.
All right, do you know where your battery is in your car? If you set under the hood by the engine, might be wrong.
Is that right? Those are the kind of real-world lessons students at Francis House Central are learning in a special monthly class. I can't wait to see this. Corey Stark has the story.
Who knows why it's important to keep the correct tire pressure?
These students at Francis House Central are learning the whys and hows of tire pressure and more. It's part of Real World Wednesdays where students learn basic life skills like car care.
Or who can tell me where the engine oil dipstick might be on this vehicle? There's a dipstick that allows you to check the engine oil.
Mechanic Greg Mertz says the students are full of questions and every one is a good one.
There are no funny questions. No funnier than the questions I get from my own mechanics on a daily basis.
They learned that car batteries aren't always where you think.
One of the things we covered today was the battery placement. So I asked the question, where's the battery in the vehicle? And everybody thought it was the engine compartment. Well, today in a lot of vehicles, it's not in the engine compartment. It's under the back seat or in the trunk. So we showed them in this vehicle that's actually in the trunk.
The students in the class say they got information they know they'll use and that they had fun.
My car that I'm copy getting, it's a pretty old one that breaks down. So it's really good to know how to maintain it before we get there.
It's very worthwhile, because one time before this, my car didn't start, and I was like, the only thing I can do is make sure the engine's still there. So that's why I'm sure they can actually check actual things besides just making sure the engine has a small cost.
That's a good thing to know. Corey Stark, News 4.
I can't wait to look under my hood. I think that's out there, yeah, absolutely. I like that class. The real world classes are held once a month while teachers and staff are attending administrative seminars. Very practical.
Just buy yourself a hoopty, then you'll learn everything about how to repair and work with a dead car. We'll see you back here.
So the last part was a little wrong. It's during our seminar intervention time when our students, so they can choose to come. They sign up ahead of time and they can choose to come during that intervention time instead of going and, making up a test or, whatever they choose to do during that, it's kind of free choice. And so that's where we get those ideas. So we appreciate your, having us. Our next session is March 16th. 13th, okay. So, and we will look at what's after high school. So there's many choices, military, jobs, maybe there's going into the workforce, so they'll have stations to look at, and counselors and some people from the community will be helping us with that. And then there's one in April 10th. Oh, see? I have my notes, I don't know why I'm looking. smoking, that we have somebody from Chick-fil-A coming to talk about soft skills, a big topic now. So that'll be our last one of the year. We'd love for you to come anytime and join us, and if you have any ideas, please let us know.
Ladies, can I ask you a couple questions? Yes. Okay, come back up. Thank you. So what is attendance like? How many kids do you have? I'm sure it's a variety depending on the topic.
It definitely does. I would say on average, we have about 20 to 30. Sometimes, depending on the topic, we have to kind of cut it. Because, you know, like when grade comes in with the car, like if there's too many kids, they can't participate or see. So it definitely depends on the topic, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find my battery now because I don't know if it's in the trunk. And so help me understand, when is it offered? It's once a month, and it's during the intervention?
It's during the intervention time. We can just once a month during that time, and we choose our topics. We have a spreadsheet that we started 2 years ago, and we keep picking different topics and going with it and trying to find, especially the community, trying to find different things that will resonate with the kids.
And then, what do you think is one of the most favorite that is attended? Is it the vehicle one?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, we've had Lens Auto come twice. And I've had students like after, they're like, where's the car one? I was like, we already had that one. Because we usually have it at the beginning, and they're like, dang it. That's the one that they're always asking about. So, but that's, yeah, I mean, I would say it kind of depends on the kid. Like the Stress for Less was a recent really favorite one. We just had that in February, and the students really, really liked that. Like some of them told me that they have the apps and are actively using it, and so I can see students asking me about that for next year.
One of our teachers volunteered. I was looking for somebody to do yoga, and it was hard to find somebody certified, and so I put it out at the department chair meeting. She's like, do they have to be certified? I'm like, I don't care if you're certified, if you know how to do yoga. And she's like, I'm doing it. And she was so excited. And then, so she brought her whole class for the intervention time. And so they all were participating.
Great. Board, anyone else have questions? Ava, when you get to high school, does that sound like it would be something interesting? Yeah. Okay, so
we'll be watching for you.
Yeah, so your high school students would like you to keep the program going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to add a little bit, two things are identified in the strategic plan that relate to Real World Wednesdays. One is partnering with communities to increase the skills of our students, not just partnering with communities, but with a purpose. And then the strategic plan, the input that we got was very much about our students having the soft skills as well as the life skills. And so, as Ava said, this was a great idea. I do see programs like this expanding as we roll out the strategic plan in the coming years. Great, thank you very much. Okay. Next on our agenda, we have curriculum review. So we have the first reading. So please make sure you're taking a look at that. Now we have our MSBA board reports.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of February. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the teacher workforce in Missouri. It's an important issue for school boards and superintendents throughout the state, since teacher quality has been consistently identified as the most important school-based factor in student achievement. A report on Missouri's teacher workforce was presented at a recent meeting of the State Board of Education. The report showed Missouri now ranks 49th out of the 50 states in average starting teacher salary and 39th in the nation in overall teacher salaries. The report also found that fewer people are earning a teaching certificate. The demand for teachers is likely to increase due to expanding student enrollment and high attrition rates, and teachers leave the profession due to family reasons, lack of administrative support, low salaries, and challenging working conditions. Shortage areas continue to exist in specific subject areas and in certain geographic areas of Missouri. But the report said there are some strategies for improving teacher recruitment and retention. Those include strong preparation and mentoring programs, comparable salaries, and professional working conditions. Some school districts in the state also are implementing programs such as Grow Your Own to address the challenges occurring in the teacher workforce. School district staff throughout the state can now take advantage of free training designed to help them identify, investigate, assess, and manage risks and potential dangerous behavior in school. It's called Behavioral Risk Assessment Team Training, and it's provided through MSBA's Center for Education Safety to Missouri school districts, thanks to a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice. MSBA Associate Executive Director and Director of the CES, Jerry Lee, says it's important for schools to not just focus on facilities when addressing school safety needs.
Facilities, the physical aspect, and the personal aspect. You've got to have you got to deal with both. And so we're really trying to focus on that preventive side. Both of them are preventive type things, but let's start early. Let's start at the first sign of behavior, first sign of an issue that comes up, so that administrators, districts can identify those problems and deal with them and find resources. And one of the things the Center for Education Safety wants to be is help them find those resources, help match those needs with the resources available in our state. Because there's lots of resources in our state available. So getting the two matched up is really what we try to focus on.
Contact MSBA's Center for Education Safety if your district is interested in participating in the Behavioral Risk Assessment Team Training. The Center for Education Safety is the only statewide school safety organization in Missouri and serves as a resource to school districts on school safety issues. As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments through critical issue alerts, and with periodic webinars. The 2019 Early Childhood Education Program of the Year Award applications are open through March 29th. Districts submitting applications will be judged on effective practices and innovative solutions in early childhood education, and 3 statewide winners will be announced based on student enrollment. The winning school districts are required to produce a short video on their program that will be shown at this year's MSBA Annual Conference. The Early Childhood Education Program of the Year Award is sponsored by MSBA's foundation, Future Builders. Well, the best thing about MSBA's annual conference is you. Get your school team together and submit your presentation for a chance to present at this year's conference. More than 100 presentations by school districts are showcased at the conference each year and provide valuable information on successful programs. You can submit a proposal for presentation at the 2019 annual conference through the MSBA website. The deadline for submitting a presentation proposal is March 30th. The annual conference this year is scheduled for September 26th through 29th. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
All right. So next on our agenda, board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchases over $7,500 as presented. Motion made by Mr. Hain, seconded by Mrs. Lane. Board, any questions, concerns? By roll call.
Ms. Lane?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Board, next on our agenda is transportation staffing. I would entertain a motion to approve non-certified positions necessary for the implementation of the in-house transportation services as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Walker, seconded by Mr. Lane. Mrs. Simpkins, anything to add?
Thank you. No, we're
excited to bring the staffing plan to the board tonight for approval so that we can begin the process of posting positions and filling those office positions that will support Jen Simpson as she brings forward transportation. We know this is a very difficult group of employees to attract and retain, so we've done some research to provide the information to you today.
Board, any questions? Mrs. Walker?
So why the difference in the hours for benefits?
One of the things that we know is it is extremely difficult to attract and retain school bus drivers. And along with attracting them becomes a lot of training. If a brand new bus driver were to come to us, the testing that's required, the random drug testing that's required, the licensing that's necessary to drive a school bus is different from any other position that we have in our district. And so we want to be sure that the package that we have, we will be able to attract and retain those employees and keep them here in Francis Howell once they're here.
So I guess the follow-up question is about how many employees do we have that are gonna fall in that 5-hour category between 25 and 30? Do we have a lot of people in that bracket?
You're talking about our current staff. So we did look at that. We don't have many. Many of our part-time employees will work about 20 hours a week. If you're thinking of like our recess paras, our cafeteria aides, they're about 20 hours per week. We do have a small group of employees that will work around 25 hours a week, vacation station facilitators or something of that nature, but it is a small group. A majority of our support staff employees either work 20 or below or 30 or higher.
I just would also add that all of these data points in regards to hiring our bus drivers are something that we, as Lisa said, we are doing a lot of research on. So if we look in our county, Orchard Farms will offer it to a bus driver if they drive one route a week. Others are at 20, others are at 25. So we were trying to also look at the market in the area when we set that in the amount of hours for insurance. And I mean, that's what we're bringing forth right now, is what we believe to be the right number, and it's not that we couldn't reconsider at some point as we continue to roll out transportation.
Mr. Lane?
So when we consider grandfathering those handful of employees to get the same benefits of 25 hours, or will they still be separate?
I think our intention, as Dr. Hendricks-Harris said, is we're just trying to meet the industry standard for a category of employees. So our intention wasn't to change the current model that we have for other categories of employees. We were just looking at what other districts throughout the area were doing for that group and trying to match that. So I think, as Dr. Hendricks-Harris said, we're open for some discussion, but this is what we would bring forward to start the ball rolling for transportation.
And then my second question is, at the bottom positions will have outside experience applied. What does that mean?
So industry standard, again, if I'm a school bus driver in Fort Zumwalt and I've been there for 5 years and I want to make a change and apply in Francis Howell, I would expect to come in on step 5 of the salary schedule here in Francis Howell. Because of the extensive training and testing that's required and the experience that's necessary for a school bus driver, it would position us to be able to recruit current bus drivers in other school districts. A driver with 5 years of experience in Fort Zumwalt wouldn't consider coming to Francis Howell if we said that they would come in at step 1.
Up to how many years?
The salary schedule that we're showing here has 5 years, or 5 steps on the salary schedule, so they would come in at wherever they would match. So if they are a 20-year bus driver, the highest step that we'll have is 5.
Thank you.
Board, any other questions? Okay, by roll call.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. We're next on our agenda is our monthly financial report for January 2019. I would entertain a motion to approve the January 2019 financial statements as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Walker, seconded by Mr. Haynes. Mr. Supple?
Thank you, Mrs. Crowe. It was during January that we received our payment for the financial institution tax. I provided information in the memo and then followed that up with a PowerPoint presentation, and there were some subsequent questions from the board, which are also posted to the board doc site. So I don't have anything else to offer unless the board would have specific questions.
Board, any questions?
I just have a question. I'm just wondering if there's any other plans on transferring the other funds over.
No, my intention would be that the allocation that's reflected in the January financial statements would be what it would be for the year.
Thank you.
Mrs. Stiglitz?
Considering that we've gotten quite a bit of money in the last 2 years, I did hear you say earlier, that are we gonna look at budgeting for that in the future so that we aren't getting this? That was one of my concerns.
I mentioned in the memo that since we've had this at approximately the same level for 2 years, I will consider raising substantially what we budget for that line item, with a proviso that just as we were surprised on the high side, it could very well be that we'll be surprised on the low side, and some of the reasons for that were covered in the presentation.
Mrs. Walter?
There have been some questions about this potentially being a revised budget. That is not the case, correct?
Not sure I understand your question.
So we budget the amount of money that goes into our capital fund each year, and so we're gonna be changing that amount. Correct?
I would say, I would answer the question this way. I don't think that that's a fair characterization. We also would budget, so take any other revenue stream, property taxes, which is also distributed by fund, and we do that on the tax rate, and we make an estimate of what our revenue will be based on our knowledge of assessed valuation at the time we create the budget. And pardon me, bills are sent out based on the assessed valuation at the time, and our revenue oftentimes comes in higher than what we budgeted. And so what goes into a particular fund would be different than that's reflected in the budget, and I would not view that or characterize that as a revision to the budget.
Board, any other questions? Okay, by roll call.
Ms. Stiglitz?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Board, next on our agenda is the insurance update. Fighting with my technology tonight. And this is for information purposes only. Mr. Supple.
Thank you, Mrs. Crowe. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things about our Nearside Clinic. So we opened October 15th, and we've had very positive reviews from staff members, plan members who have used the clinic. I shared previously with the board that upon opening, we hadn't yet been able to secure a full-time physician for our clinic, but as of January 4th, that changed. So Dr. Nick Powers is our permanent physician, and people have responded very, very well to him. And it really seemed to be enjoying it. And I would point out that some of the data and utilization reports were provided just to give an idea of the type of information that we would get from the clinic on a regular basis. We've only been open since October, and we are filling up at least 50% of the available slots, and I think that is definitely meeting our target. So we're very happy about that, and my only concern is that as it gets word of mouth, which is very positive, that we may find ourselves running out of available spaces, which would be a good problem to have, and has been the experience of other organizations who have implemented a similar program. So we're very pleased with the results. It's way too early to pinpoint any actual financial advantage. You know, it takes several months for the data to filter through the various sources, so I can't share with you at this point what that financial benefit has been, but I will tell you that we had a department meeting, and I will share with you that a member of my department made the comment, I've never had a doctor spend so much time with me. Never. And that's what we were looking for. That's exactly what we want. We want people to be engaged in their health care, feel comfortable talking with their doctor, so that any of those issues that they might be struggling with, whether it's chronic or acute, that they're getting some appropriate care for that. And that it isn't just in and out, and I'm not sure what happened, and oh, I guess I have to go to the pharmacy and fill this prescription, and I'm not sure why. So I think we're very pleased with what's happening so far.
That's excellent news. Board, any questions? Mrs. Walker?
So it looks like our plan cost per member per month is actually decreasing.
That was data for our pharmacy, on the pharmacy side, yes. And we talked about some of the reasons why that is true. We've had some decrease in specialty patients, which plays a big role in that. We've been very proactive in terms of some of the cost reduction strategies that we've implemented. And Express Scripts, as our pharmacy benefit manager, has been very aggressive in negotiating discounts and rebates for us. So those things have all played into some very positive results for us.
Do you think we're gonna have to put additional money into the fund for next year?
I would say that it's almost certain that that would be the case, because while our costs are going down, you know, medical trend is also going up, and it would be unusual for us to not see a need to increase what our premium structure was. I'm not saying that we can't rule it out, but you know, one of the benefits that might help us out this year is that we are in a rebid for our third-party administrator and our medical network, and depending upon the aggressiveness of the bidders and maybe the options that they provide to us, there could be some strategies that we could employ that we haven't had access to yet, that could help us bring our overall costs down. But we don't have any of the responses from our RFP yet, so I can't really speak to that. But I know that there are some approaches like a narrow network, where you limit where your plan members are able to go, and as a result you get lower costs. Whether or not anybody would present that and whether or not it would be financially beneficial for us to consider that, I don't know. But strategies like that may play a role. And because, as I said, because it's a rebid year, it's a little bit up in the air.
I just have a question. Are all 3 clinics up and operating?
Yes, yes. Well, I'll answer the question. Parkway was using an existing clinic that was already extant at the time that they went live, so they've been since July 1. We opened October 15th, and I believe that the McKelvey Clinic opened in November. But yes, they're all open now, and Parkway is also going to get a second clinic site, which luckily is going to be right next to my house. It would be very close to where I live, and so they're looking forward to that. But that's I don't think that's open yet. But so Parkway's, or the second site that will be in the West County area. Of course, all of the clinic sites are available to any of the plan members from any of the 3 school districts.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the update, and still continue to be excited about that opportunity. So far so good, and I hope it continues to grow in a positive way. Thank you. All right, board, next on our agenda is our strategic planning committee updates. Tonight we have goal 1, life, college, career, and success, and goal 2, engaging learning environment. Who gets goal one? Dr. Hoven, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I have the privilege of leading out goal one along with Dr. Lammers. Very excited about our progress. We had a full day meeting back in January where we were able to really get a lot of work done. I do want to point out, every goal area approaches their work a little differently, and so you may hear a different direction some of us have taken. We have taken the path of first identifying what our end goals are with our key performance indicators. And so rather than identifying action steps first, we did our work on end goals and key performance indicators first, and then we're going back in to fill in the action steps. So what we were able to do in that full day meeting in January was finalize our strategy 1 key performance indicators. So you can see those listed in your report. We do already have a number of celebrations to have things that are already going on, and I won't read the entire list to you, but things with job shadowing, Katie Vargas has done a great job with securing a lot of opportunities for our kids that we didn't have in the past, and that's only going to continue to grow. District-wide college fair, Mentors for College, working on a county-wide career fair and early college opportunities for our students. All of those things are in various stages of progress already and tie in very nicely with the strategic plan. If you look at our key performance indicators, all about college, career, and life readiness, we have things regarding things that I talked about during our workshop earlier, whether it's ACT, college credit, opportunities for kids. And when you look at these different KPIs, what we're going to be doing is tomorrow, our committee is actually meeting during the day again. We have a half-day plan for tomorrow where we should finalize our action steps for strategy 1 and then begin identifying key performance indicators for strategy 2. So our progress is really ramped up beginning with that meeting in January. Challenges and barriers that we found out in January, a lot of good time spent on understanding where the different goal areas overlap, so we're not all doing parallel work or work that competes with each other. One of our challenges there will be to continue to keep the identity of our goals, even if we share them, our actions, even if we share them with some of the other goal areas. Also, goal 1 is very broad. To sit here and try to put action steps on the entirety of educating students, we're finding a challenge that's very broad, and we don't want to lose sight of all of the great things we already do. So all of the things that have gotten our achievement to where it is today are also very important. So our challenge is to not lose sight of all of those important things while we envision what our next steps look like. And along with all of our other goal areas, we've got some time coming up soon to make some tough decisions. There's a lot of resources and time allocations that are going to need to happen across all the goal areas. So the challenge of understanding how to prioritize the different action steps across all the goal areas to be what should we do now, what should wait a year, those kinds of things. Resources, some of that will still be clarified as our action steps take place. We've got a couple of them listed here, but those would begin to be more clarified as specific action step recommendations start to come forward. As with anything strategic plan related, there's a lot of these that could potentially come with significant costs, and that will be part of that decision maker we're going to have to make that encompasses all of the different goal areas. One of the key things we did first, and we've listed this here, is developing a profile of a graduate that really is driving all of our decisions. So we'll continue to refine that and would eventually create, this is our profile that we're going to base a lot of our decisions on, and our key performance indicators that we've come up with. So that's a quick update. Any questions on the goal 1 work?
Board, any questions on goal 1? Thank you very much. Who's doing the update for goal 2? Mr. Wilson, thanks for joining us this
Good
evening.
evening and happy Board Appreciation Week to you all. As you said, Goal 2 is about engaging learning environment. Myself, Rich Wilson with Dr. Jennifer Patterson, we are the co-champions for the Goal 2 area. There are 2 strategies, like all the goal areas. There are 2 strategies in our Goal 2 area. The first one is to provide a system of support, including interventions and enrichments to meet the social, emotional, and physical needs of all students. And strategy 2 is to increase the accessibility and effective use of technology to enhance both teaching and learning. So just wanted to share a few celebrations around related to the Goal 2 work area. Kudos to the Goal 2, as Dr. Hovind mentioned, on January 18th, we had a strategic work day We had a great turnout across all the strategic 5 goal areas. But just want to do a special shout out for our Goal 2 standing members that attended, especially the community members that took time out in their work and life day to do a lot of work on that day. This month is We Love to Code, so events and STEM lessons and activities are taking place in schools across the district. A lot of those activities can be followed on Twitter at #FHSDcodes. Last week was EdPlus's Midwest Educational Technology Conference, and we had over 36 educators from the district that attended that conference, which is an educational technology conference. Kudos to Francis Howell's very own April Burton, instructional technology coach lead extraordinaire, as we say. She represented the district on the METC keynote speaker panel. And then recently, Francis Howell North hosted an evening event for the community on equity and changes in the community. And special kudos to Dr. Chris Birch, who coordinated that community event. Some of the work, a lot of the work that we did on the January 18th Strategic Planning Day, we developed our draft KPIs for the 2 strategy areas. We have 8 draft KPIs in our Goal 2 area. I won't read all of those, but just kind of highlight some of the major priority work themes that we have in the 2 strategy areas. In strategy 1, it will be looking at investing culturally relevant learning and resource opportunities for our students, and to research social emotional learning opportunities for our students as well. In the strategy 2 area, we are looking at expanding our teacher professional development learning opportunities, especially around the educational technology arena. We want to investigate and expand our digital citizenship education for all of our students across the district. Work also around investigating a potential district-wide learning management system for all of our teachers and students to use. And priority work includes examining and determining best practices to increase device and resource access equity for all of our students in our district. Some of the recent tasks, in addition to drafting our KPIs, Goal 2 standing, actually just yesterday, we reviewed our drafted action steps from our January 18th Strategic Planning Day. And what we did is we plotted those out with a proposed timeline. And as we commission our action teams, and we talked about the composition of the action teams around the strategy 2 area, we plotted out that timeline, what that would look like as we commission those action teams around our strategy areas, to give them a time frame for which to work with their action team work. In our next Goal 2 advisory meeting next month, we will update the members on the progress and gather any additional feedback and input around our developed KPIs, the action teams, the action steps, and proposed timelines. Resources, as we have been talking about the KPIs and potential action steps that will be proposed, we talked about potential resources that we may be looking at. But a more specific list of resources will be identified in upcoming Goal 2 meetings as the action team work starts and continues. Some of those resources may include new programs, perhaps curriculum resources, software release time for subs, and professional development learning opportunities for faculty and staff. So that's a quick rundown, overview of the recent work done by Goal 2 and a preview of the upcoming steps. So thank you, and see if you have any questions at this time.
Great, thank you very much. Board, any questions?
I just want to add, while we're talking about strategic planning, that on Monday we'll have a full day meeting with full cabinet and the goal champions. One of the things we have to pay attention to is we have 5 goal areas, all identifying great work, great data tracking, but they all are going to take up time and energy and resources. So we will really be looking at what's coming down the pipe from the goal areas and pacing our resources and our time and our energy over the coming years.
Prioritizing.
It's going to be another great long day.
Okay. Look forward to hearing that. Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Great information. Thank you very much. All right, board, next on our agenda is superintendent comments.
I really do only have a few tonight. In February, students across the district have the opportunity to participate in various coding activities as part of We Love to Code Month. This is the 4th year Francis Howell has hosted a district-wide event focused on coding. The Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals selected Katie Worley from Sager Middle as the 2019 Middle School Principal of the Year. I know know our board is aware of the good work of Dr. Worley, and this award is especially meaningful since it was determined by her colleagues across the state. All of our schools have announced the recipients of the Teacher of the Year and Support Staff Employee of the Year. These exemplary staff exhibit the core values of the district and serve as role models for both students and staff. This year's winners will be recognized at the annual Hall of Fame Awards ceremony on May 6th. Earlier this month, students at Francis Hall High School were treated to an updated lunchroom and brand new meals options as Sodexo rolled out Taste 4. Taste 4 brings global cuisine into the spotlight. Students can select meal options from monitors displaying that day's menus and are given a variety of healthier options. Francis Hall Central and Francis Hall North will also be adopting programs in the near future. Congratulations to Francis Hall High School junior Ryan Skillington. He's the latest state champion to come out of the Viking wrestling program. Ryan became the first Hall heavyweight in the history of the storied program to win a state championship this past weekend. History was also made when Francis Hall High School senior Emily Eberwine became the first Francis Hall School District female wrestler to medal at state. Emily captured 4th place in her first year of competition. On National Signing Day, February 6th, more than 20 Francis Hall High School student athletes signed national letters of intent to continue their athletic and academic careers at the next level. I want to thank our teachers, content leaders, support staff, academic team, and administrators for their hard work, which led to the positive outcomes outlined in the work session tonight. These results do not come by chance, but by thoughtful and deliberate work. Our students are achieving at high levels. Lastly, I want to reiterate my statements in recognition and thank you to each of you for your many hours of service for our students.
Great, thank you, Dr. Saris. Next on our agenda, we have Board of Education comments and requests. Mr. Lang, would you like to go first?
I'll start, only because what my little breakout was about, they covered on the MSBA video. But on the 11th, myself, Patrick, Mary, Michelle, and Janet made the trip to Jeff City for the legislative forum through MSBA. And it was very informative and a great experience, walking the halls, talking to legislators, see what's going on, keeping up to date on, what's on the horizon, and just to be networking. Also, after being here, we found out that this year, the Leadership Summit is being held June 7th and 9th locally at St. Charles Convention Center. For the past 3 to 4 years, we haven't been able to attend due to it being at the lake and the same weekend as our graduation. So that's my little, and I think everybody else has a little take on what they got from the trip.
So, a couple of the bills that we learned about while we were there, House Bill 673 and House Bill 743, were a bit concerning because they want to give students more than First Amendment rights. So they wanted those bills are looking to take away the ability of a teacher or an administrator to stop something that's coming out of the school newspaper. So we talked to them about that. It was fascinating to me that, they don't want any oversight, that they're trying to put bills in place where the kids can write whatever they want. It's a little bit scary. I have a high schooler. And so we talked to our legislators about that and what we thought about it. I also was able to participate in the equity circles at Francis Hall North that Dr. Birch put together with, was it Ed Plus, I believe? That was a fantastic experience. There were several other board members that were present that night, but it was a fantastic conversation that we talked all about what's the same about us and what's different about us, and how as a community it's important for all of us to respect our differences and embrace our differences. So I think it was a great start.
Mr. Lane? Mrs. Lane?
All at once.
My breakout session I went to was also covered in our board reports, but I just wanted to mention when we went and spoke with all of our elected officials that were in offices, that were there, that were, we broke apart and tried to reach every person from our district, which we cover, what, six, yeah. So we met with, I'd say about 5, we got to about 5 of them. We invited each and every one of them to every board meeting we have. I don't see any tonight, but they promised they would come. We have a representative that is sponsoring a couple bills. So we invited him to speak on them, on why he thought that would benefit our public education. She didn't respond nor come this evening, so I'll reach out and give to him tomorrow on that. But I just want to say it was very beneficial. It was very great. It was great advocating with some wonderful individuals. We got lots of points crossed. And we will continue to get these points across and go from there.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lane?
They didn't like to see us coming, to be honest. We asked the questions that we wouldn't leave. What I want to highlight is charter schools, which is House Bill 581 and Senate Bill 291. They tweaked it and changed it to bring more people forward to be interested in this. It'll be counties with populations of more than 30,000 or in a county with a charter government. So St. Charles County, St. Louis County, counties outside Springfield and Kansas City would be eligible for charter schools. Honestly, charter schools sound good on paper, but my concern again is accountability. There's no accountability such as we have. If Francis Howell opened a 4th high school next year, immediately we would have to keep track of attendance, graduation rate, ACT scores, math progress with our subgroups immediately in that school. In a charter school, it doesn't happen for 5 years. So for 5 years, there's no accountability there. They do not have to hire highly qualified teachers. Basically what that means is teachers are certified in the area that they teach. As many of you know, I'm a special ed and elementary teacher, and I spent my career there and a principal. But if you put me in an 8th grade math, I am not certified to teach that. So even though I have an education background, it doesn't mean I'm able to have all the skills that are taught of a math teacher in middle school. They can be selected with students. Francis Howell welcomes all children. The charter school can welcome who they feel would be best to meet their needs. And also there's no relationship with the local school board. Everyone in this room is responsible to us. Hopefully we're not fearful there, but we direct the school district and make sure everything is done the right way. And so it can be a school board assigned by that school, and many school boards have more than 50% of their board members as out-of-state people. So I would think you'd want someone from St. Charles County on the school board that directs to our children. Congratulate the district. I've been all over this month, I think. I went to Francis Howell Central for their coding. Children did a wonderful job. I was at Francis Howell North and got to hear Ammon Parkland, and a lot of students do their thing at their coffee house. Very enlightening. Lots of trivia nights are coming up for schools, and enjoy those. And then I also got to visit at Francis Howell North and view as outside the circle, their equity circle, and it was very interesting, and I highly suggest that you go and view sometime what they do. And the conversations were great by the students, parents, and the staff in that building. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Stiglitz?
My breakout session that I attended that time was on the teacher shortage that they're anticipating across the state. I just want to say one of the things that I was proud of is the fact that Francis Howell School District isn't number 49 in the state. We are a lot higher. And that just speaks to the dedication of you people in this room and how important you are to all of us. I just want to make sure you know that. The other thing we also shared with our lawmakers is we did discuss the teacher pension fund and told them that we were all against that. So I want to let you guys know that that was discussed also. One of the things that I did want to say is I was here on January 18th for that day, that KPI day. I think that's a thing I got out of that day. And it was very, very, very inspiring, and it was very, very interesting to watch all the different groups work and come together for the benefit of this district. I want everyone to know how hard it is. Thank you for letting me be part of that group. That's it.
I just got one more thing. I also want to say that we had Governor Farson was there in person and addressed us and was very, very good. Also, State Board of Education President Charlie Shields and Commissioner Van Dieven were all present at this event.
All right, so now we're gonna hear from our most important board member of the evening. Ava, how you doing down there? Good. Is there anything you'd like to share with us this evening?
Yes, I would like to say that my school, Bryan Middle, is like really, really awesome. I talked to some of the teachers at the school and they said that they love the teamwork that they use at the school. And I heard from all the students today because I asked them questions to come prepared. How they like the school, and they said that it's just an amazing environment, and I think everybody at the school is doing an amazing job.
David, thank you very much for giving us that feedback and making sure you're getting that information from your other students and your teachers, so we appreciate you bringing that to us this evening. You were well prepared. Good job. Now, you're in the spotlight. Do you have any questions for us? You have the Board of Education sitting right here. Is there any question you have for us? You can say no.
Not really.
Okay. Fair enough. How about the superintendent? No? Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Okay. What an amazing young woman we have in our district.
I just want to say, I'm glad we expanded the student reps down instead of high school kids. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing.
All right, with that board, I'll mention I got to go to the Francis Howard Coffee House. I don't have as much to contribute as everybody else this week, but it was great to see some of our students and teachers perform. It was a great time. All right, next on our agenda is upcoming meetings. If you'll take a look at March 14th, Laura gave us a note that this is the second Thursday of the month, just for everyone's calendar, due to the following week of spring break. Is there anything we need to add or adjust for that agenda? Okay. Please take a look at April 11th. Any adjustments to that schedule? Mr. Sutton?
Yeah, Mrs. Carpel, just note two things. One pertains actually to both of the meetings and having the meeting on the second Thursday of the month, it could be a little bit tight for posting the financial statements because the month has to close and then we have to do our work. So that may not be posted in the usual time frame for both the February and March statements for March and April meeting. They will be posted ahead of the board meeting, but not probably in the usual time frame. The other thing I'll mention is that the projected tax liability notice, that is an information item. I think we have to have that to the county by April the 8th, so we'll have to submit that before the meeting occurs. But again, it's just an informational item for the board anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Any other adjustments? Oh, yeah. So, thank you, Mr. Lane. March 7th, Brownies with the Board. Little plug. Please come and if you have an opportunity to speak with us, we'll be happy to have those conversations. We're very excited about this. Where is it? Help me out. Mr. Dykeman, where are we at this time?
This time, where we're at, Laura, this time?
Cosley, we're at Cosley. Whew.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn back into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Walker, seconded by Mrs. Stigledge. By roll call.
Mr. Nee?
Aye.
Aye.